Well, hello everybody. Welcome to P.B.M. Money. This is the second part of a two-part series we were doing on income allocation. The first one we did was saving. This one we're going to do expenses. Income allocation. I love that title. That's just a fancy word for budgeting. Only it doesn't sound so stuffy. So, when you do a budget, and I'm going to try really hard not to make this dry and boring. I'm just going to give you the bones to it, let you put your own meat on it. But the first thing when you're going to do a budget is you need to sit down and write down all of your expenses. And when I say expenses, I mean all of your expenses. And you need to prioritize them. I mean, like, the biggest priority would be like rent, food, utilities, car payments, those kind of things. Once you get the priorities down, then all you have to do, and put them in order, then all you have to do is draw a line between the have-tos and the want-tos. On the want-tos, that doesn't mean you don't ever do it. That just means on the major things each month, that's what you have to write a check for. You have to have a place to live. You have to have a car, unless you live in a big city, which you use mass transit, which means you still have money that you have to use. And food, I mean, you know, utilities. That's what you have to have every month. Whatever that number is, that's what you have to have every month. Everything after that is debatable. Now, the question is, if it's debatable, how much do you want it? And I'll tell you a way to think about it. Would you rather have a $20 dinner out, or would you rather have $20 in your emergency fund? Probably rather have the dinner out, I would. But what's more important? 20 minutes of feeding your face, or a little $20 more security, knowing that if something happens, you're not going to be scrambling and have to go into debt to pay the bill. And you ask yourself that question every single time you go to spend money on a want-to. Now, I will give some tips that I use, and one of them is, and I'm in the process of doing this, is automating my expenses. Now, I've got just about all of my savings automated. I will have in a month. And then I'm going to start on my expenses. I've already got some of them done, like the minimums on my credit cards. I didn't do that to pay the bill off. I did that to make sure that my credit rating stays good, because I now have 9 credit cards. If I miss one payment on one date on one card, that's going to ding my credit, and I don't want that to happen. So every month I'm going to have the minimum taken out of each one of those. That way, if I miss it, my credit rating won't get dinged. What I'm saying is automate your expenses. Now, this is just a normal thing for me, but always look for a way to cut your expenses. You know, like, we have to have utilities. You know, you got to have heat, you got to have air, you got to have a refrigerator. But do you really need your air at 69 or 70 degrees? I used to. And every year I would put it up a notch or two. Now, in the summertime, I keep my air at 77 when I'm home, 80 when I'm not. In the wintertime, I keep my air at 70, or my heat at 74, and 70 when I'm not home. But look for ways to cut your expenses on a daily basis. Another thing that will help get you over the hump of not having enough cash flow to pay your bills is I did a video called how to increase your cash flow. And in there we did, I showed you a whole bunch of different ways to increase the cash flow on a monthly basis on your checking account. And one of the things was, I write checks for mine right now, and on the outside of the envelope, I put a date that I'm going to mail it. And I keep them all I write them all on the first of the month, and I keep them by my door, and on the way out I check. And if I have any ones that I need to mail today, I take and drop them in the mail. That way I don't have all of my checks hit my checking account at one time in the beginning of the month when I've still got 3 more paychecks to come. I try to space them out over the period of the month. It helps your cash flow a lot. I actually learned that trick from a business who didn't need to do it, but they did it on a daily basis, and it helped their cash flow. And this is probably the biggest hurdle that people have to budgeting and saving, and that is their partner. Now, I am not married. I don't have a roommate, girlfriend, nothing. So for me, this is not an issue, but it has been in the past. They must be on board with your budget. That's critical. Because if one of you is a saver and one of you is a spender, you'll never get anywhere. You need to both be savers or you need to both be spenders. That way you're on the same page. If you're both spenders, you'll never have anything anyway. If you're both savers, you'll do very well, no matter how much money you make. And I lived both sides of that, and I know that to be a fact. My first wife and I were both savers. We were both young. We both made very little money. But we did a lot and we had a lot. We went to Florida 2 or 3 times a year. We bought a timeshare. We both had cars. We had a nice home in a nice area, blah, blah, blah. Because we were both savers and our priorities were the same. It makes a huge difference. Some conclusions that I'd like to kind of draw here is this. Number 1, when you look for ways to cut your expenses, increase your savings by that amount. As an example, and I've used this example before, the place that I work, we used to have a medical savings account, and as soon as that went away, I think it was $11 a week, I went to my credit union and said, hey, I want you to start taking $11 a week out of my account and put it into my savings account. It's only $11 a week, but it's $44 a month. It's $500 a year. Okay, and it's the same amount. Did the same with my utilities. When they went from 120 to 86, I went in and said, hey, I want you to take the difference out every month and put it into my savings account. Every dollar you make, every dollar that comes into your home should have a purpose. Every single dollar. Expenses or savings. If it's savings, make it automated. If it's expenses, make the have-tos automated. And for every dollar you save, make the savings automated. Now, another conclusion is frugal living makes life easier. Had a sales manager one time, and his trick to managing the sales force was to take each one individually for a month or 2 a year and increase their expenses by having them trade their car in or move to a different place. And his theory was, if you had to make more money to live, you would work harder to make more money. Typical sales manager, he made a lot of money, but he spent a lot of money. Another conclusion is, when you get married or you have a significant other, you must do what the Bible says and be equally yoked. You must both be savers or you must both be spenders. A saver and a spender in the same household will never ever achieve anything. Now, and the last conclusion is, even though I want you to automate your checking and your savings account, or your expenses and your savings, have it done automatically, stay engaged. You must stay on top of your expenses, you must stay on top of your savings, and you must stay on top of your investments. If you don't, they will get away from you and you will pay the price for that. Now, in this video, we talked about income allocation, your expenses. How you handle your expenses is critical. But what's most critical is how you prioritize your expenses. If you think that wearing name brand clothes is a have to, you're missing the point. You need to wear clothes to go to work, and you need to look nice, depending on whether you work in an office or not. But you don't have to wear name brand. My second wife took the kids clothes shopping for school one year, our first year we were married. They were gone all day. We had 4 kids. They came back and every one of them had name brand designer jeans and shoes and tops. Now, I said nothing to her in front of the kids, but after the kids went to bed, I said, "Are you out of your mind?" And she looked at me like I had 3 eyes. I said, "They're going to outgrow those clothes in 6 months. It took me a year to make that kind of money. What are you thinking?" This is also the same wife that a year later came to me and she said, "How come your first wife and you had all of this rental property and all of this and all of that, and we don't have anything?" And I looked at her and I said, "Are you out of your mind? You spend money faster than I can make it. If you want to do things and have things, you have to save money, not spend it." Yeah, that didn't go very well. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that the key to budgeting is not the numbers. It really isn't. It's the attitude and the priorities. That's what a budget is all about, is your attitude and your priorities towards money and your expenses and your savings. I did the savings ones first because I feel like savings and paying yourself first is more important than how you spend your money. When it comes to spending your money, how you prioritize things and what you want to achieve is much more important than the A, B's, and C's. Well, I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, share it. You guys have a great day, a great week, and happy investing.